originally in Spanish between 2020-2021.
The Andromedan Viera is a small biosphere spacecraft by their standards. It is 811 kilometers long, by about 300 kilometers wide at the back, and about 50 kilometers tall in total. It is an arrowhead in shape. Unlike other Andromedan biosphere ships, which are spherical and are much larger, this one is considered an exploration ship because of its increased agility. This is a biosphere ship that still has a recognizable traditional spaceship shape. That is, up front it is narrow with control systems, and in the back it has many huge, gigantic engines set in clusters. Sparrow of Era made a CGI of the Viera ship. She has used a Star Wars ship as a base to alter it to look like the Viera. It is very difficult to make a CGI from scratch. You have to alter an existing one. There is another sister ship, the Viera, in orbit of Venus right now. They are the same. It's a long, pointed triangle. It has 2 biosphere levels. The bottom one is marine, and I've never been there. The top one is terrestrial. That's what they call it. This giant spacecraft hides behind the moon in high orbit about 490,000 kilometers from Earth. It uses the moon as a shield so as not to be seen, but there are reports of sightings of something behind the moon.
So it orbits the same as the moon? I mean, do they go together?
Yes, exactly. Always using it as a shield. Where you see the moon, behind it, just behind, is the station Viera and most of the major motherships of the other races. They go in an orbit called selenocentric. This means that their orbits are based on the moon. That is, they orbit the moon and not the Earth. The Viera orbits at such low revolutions that it is never exposed to the Earth, just as Moon's dark side is never exposed to the Earth. In fact, it does rotate the moon, but you always see the same lunar hologram projected equally, no matter what lunar surface it is. So, it gives the illusion that it is stationary. The Viera has 16 huge plasma jet engines, gravity engines as well. It has interstellar capability. Despite its size, it is capable of jumping into hyperspace like any other ship. It has 0-point reactors. I don't know how many, but there are a lot of them.
What materials is the Viera built of?
Of a material that is a nanotechnological metal. That is to say that the small molecules of the metal align themselves to form the hull. Those kinds of big ships, including this one, are made of a metal that is intelligent. You program the powder of that metal, and it takes the shape you want following the pattern imposed by a computer. That is, it solidifies once in place.
And how are the small ships of the Andromedans? Do they have fighter-type ships in the Viera too?
Mostly discoidal. Some are egg-shaped or flattened elliptical. In the Viera, or from the Viera, fighter ships of other races come out. Antares or Centauri Alfratans. In the past, also TAYGETAN. The Andromedans don't have a fighter fleet, they depend on allies.
And the egg-shaped or flattened elliptical ships, what kind of missions do they use them for?
They are mostly cargo transport ships. The discoidal ones are personnel carriers.
I mean, don't they board this type of craft to approach the Earth?
In this case, they would use the discoidal ones. The others are utilitarian only. The Andromedans are not so much into using ships of many kinds. They are more dedicated to their immense spherical biosphere ships and other shapes like the Arrow 1.
And what is the difference between the Moon biosphere ship and the Viera, other than the shape?
The Moon is a larger biosphere-type spacecraft that contained within it in layers, like an onion, different types of ecosystem, with the marine one near the core. The surface was still solid hull with nothing outside. That is, few facilities needed, not suitable for surface living. In contrast, the Viera is only 2 levels, one above the other. No from me, I am very impressed with how they built something like the Viera. A ship that big, a whole country in size. It escapes the understanding of spacecraft construction.
And what is the original name of the ship that acts as the moon?
Cridolad.
Does it have any meaning? I guess it is Andromedan.
Yes, it is Andromedan translated into phonemes. On Earth interpreted as Welsh goddess. That goddess for sure is connected with Diana. Wales, Ireland, and Scotland have strong links to pre-dynastic Egypt and with Atlantis. Hence the names. Diana is one of the names for the moon. Cridolad, also known as Cwrdalad, or Cridolad, daughter of King Lud, she is a secondary character in the medieval Welsh tale Culhwch ac Olwen, the oldest Arthurian tale. Diana, Roman goddess of the moon.
Thank you. And the Andromedan ship from Venus, the Viera, how do they hide it there?
They just hide it with their own invisibility systems. Not so much to hide it from the sight from Venus, that is to say from its surface, but because it could be seen from Earth. The Viera, on the other hand, does not have its invisibility systems activated. It would look like a satellite of Venus with a telescope, a small triangle in the shape of an arrowhead.
And the Venusians, do they know of its existence? I mean, is the Viera hidden from them there as it is here?
I don't know, but I understand that the Venusians are more aware of what is going on than the Earthlings.
And the Viera, when it hides behind the moon, can't it be detected by its mass or something? How does it protect itself from that?
Yes, and I understand that they do detect it, but they don't tell the public. They also detect the 900 plus large spacecraft in Earth orbit that are there 24/7. It just doesn't reach the people. Telescopes, even private ones, see the spacecraft, but few dare to tell what they see. Any telescope, 1,000 times or larger, can detect spacecraft parked in orbit. It's not that hard, especially since there are many that exceed a kilometer in length. In fact, most of them exceed a kilometer in length.
What is Viera like inside?
The Andromedan Viera has 2 levels of biosphere. The lower one is marine, and the upper one is terrestrial. This is a CGI of Sparrow of era of one of the Viera's hangars. To enter the Viera, you enter through such a hangar, where the outer wall is just a force field. In fact, it's several layers of force field, but they don't look like that. In reality, it looks like you're in open space there. It's scary, yeah. On the opposite wall to that opening, in the case of a hangar marked with the letter E, which is the one we use, and which used to hold TAYGETA's fighter ships years ago, since there were more than a heavy cruiser like this one could carry, on that wall there is a huge white door with a black E about 2 m high. Through there, you enter a hallway with a textured floor like a wine red carpet with white walls, and after about 10 meters you come to a crossroads. To the left there is a large elevator. To the right, the hallway continues until you reach a food service area and lounge area with a small, unstaffed automated restaurant. And at the corner, when you reach that crossroads, there is a large transparent wall with an entrance right at the corner with about 3 steps, where they have a small rectangular park with 3 tangerine fruit trees. If you continue straight ahead down the same hallway you entered, from the door marked E, you will walk another 20 or 30 meters down that hallway, which also has a floor like a wine red carpet and white walls with nothing on them. The lights are on the ceiling in the corners. You will pass another white pneumatic door marked with another E and an acronym in Andromedan that reads biosphere. As you approach that door, it opens to one side with a distinctive sound of compressed air. As you pass through this pneumatic door, you get the feeling that you are stepping outside, not entering a ship, and that is exactly what happens. The light there is like daytime sunshine, and you hear birds in the distance. You will come out onto a very large terrace in the shape of a half circle. Terrace with a red marble floor with balustrades of round, fat, red marble bars. This half-circle area measures about 70 meters in radius. It is large. In the center, there is a statue of modern art. It looks like a bronze plant waving in the air with round holes in it. From the terrace, you can see mountains full of trees, with orange and green-colored leaves as if it were eternal autumn. Mountains can be seen in the distance, as far as the eye can see, lakes and birds flying in the air. When you reach the balustrade, you can see a perfect lawn, with 2 red gravel paths leading you to the nearest lake, which is only about 150 meters from the entrance. A lake with rounded edges where they, when arching into the lake, have a central kiosk-like construction of white marble with a domed roof without walls and a place to sit inside. This lake is mostly surrounded by forest, with the red gravel road bordering the lake itself. It has a very large population of birds, both in the water and in the air. Also, the forest has many wild animals. Among them abound pygmy squirrels, which are about the size of a mouse, but with all the shapes of a squirrel with all in their fluffy tails. In the distance, internal transports can occasionally be seen flying inside the Viera, and the roof is not very visible. It ends in either a ball of light that simulates the sun, or in a kind of artificial haze, but when you do see something up there in the distance, it looks like a white ceiling with lines, making triangle structures. The ecosystem has climate generation systems, and day and night simulation. The lamps turn on and off little by little to give the feeling of solar progression in the sky. In addition, these special lamps radiate light and radiation waves needed to sustain plant and animal life. It also has sprinklers above to produce rain and magnetic air alteration systems to produce wind. Inside, you completely forget that you are inside a spaceship. Further into the forest, you can get lost. It's like being on a planet. On the edge, or wall, or bulkhead that separates the hull of the Viera from the biosphere where you enter, there is a rail that leads to a maglev train with a transparent roof. It's like a tube, or a hot dog, with the top half transparent, and it's part of the Viera's transportation systems on the inside, and from there you can see the scenery as you move to the levels below. Going back to the entrance, if you take the elevator in the hallway, it can go up and up almost endlessly. You get higher and higher, and you even pass through the artificial clouds, and you can see the biosphere below receding as it continues to rise. The elevator is also transparent. When you reach the roof level, you can briefly see the systems that make up the roof of the Viera. Irrigation structures and pipes, and huge magnetic fans to move the air. They have no blades. It is at this point that you enter the upper structure and you see nothing, only lights passing through the elevator. You can stop at different levels, as is logical. Once at the top, the door opens and again the corridors with red floor, and you reach a large living room with soft music. There are velvety armchairs separated from each other, with fountains dispensing food and drink, mostly fruit juices. It is a place to be, to chat, to eat in peace, to reflect, or to be with friends. The most interesting thing about this place is that it has no roof. All you have and all that separates you from the space are several layers of force fields. The view is beyond incredible from there. If you are not used to it, it is alarming and creates a lot of vertigo as well. You can see the depth of space in all directions, the Milky Way, the nebulae, since you don't have the atmosphere of a planet to obscure them. You can also see the hundreds of spacecraft of all shapes and sizes that are stationed in Earth orbit. Their lights in the distance, strobes, movements of smaller spacecraft among the larger ones, and the Earth in the distance about the size of an orange held at arm's length. You can also see the moon from behind. Nothing majestic. You see it as it is, a ball of metal. Returning to the ground level, in the middle parts overlooking the biosphere area, there's a large hall with somewhat Romanesque pillars. It is very large. This is the headquarters of the Regional Federation, from where the terrestrial affairs are managed. It is like a Roman temple with Greek theater embedded in the side of the wall, with the curve of the pillars over the biosphere below. That's Viera.
Oh, thank you very much, Aneeka, for all the details. About the last thing you said, does the Roman terrestrial style have anything to do with the architecture of the Viera?
The Andromedans influenced the cultures of India and Nepal more than Rome and classical Greece. There, the Anunnaki had more influence. We, among others. I feel that it's not really that it looks Roman. Rather here, today, with what I have at hand, it's the best I have to describe it. But on the other hand, the Forum of the High Council of TAYGETAN does have a clear connection of influence to Rome and Greece. It is basically a gigantic Roman Greek pantheon. on top of a mountain by the sea on the planet Temmer, just outside the city Tolika. It's a grassy mountain with trees at the base, with a single white road leading to a huge structure like the US Capitol, but more extensive, not as skinny and tall. But it has the same dome and columns. In itself, Temmer's would be about 5 times bigger, if not more.
I understand, thank you. Regarding the artificial ecosystem, how do you recreate the rain? Do you simulate it as if it was falling from the sky?
Yes, it's simple. I'm sure it's nothing more than a series of sprinklers on the roof.
And how big is this terrestrial zone, or this terrestrial level?
About 700 kilometers by about 200 kilometers wide. The back part, the part that I'm describing, is the natural part. I understand that in the front part they have farming areas for the hundreds of thousands of Andromedans that live on the Viera. This ship is their world and their home.
And in the natural part, do you have large animals as well?
I understand that they have few large animals. I have only seen animals the size of a badger or smaller. I've never seen anything bigger, but I've never gone into the deep biosphere either.
And a curiosity, why all red? The carpet, the red gravel, the red marble? Is it for any particular reason?
Actually, I don't know. It just seems to be there. But really the 2 colors that abound in the Viera are white and blue.
And what are the Andromedan cities like in the Viera?
There are no cities. They live in the hull of the ship surrounding the biosphere area. Towards the sides, there are more than 100 levels of windows that go towards the biosphere, and these are zones for rooms. Not in the whole biosphere, but in zones. That is to say, it is a natural biosphere zone inside a containment ship, and on the edges, on the walls where it ends, there the Andromedans live, embedded there. In the part that would be the hull of the ship itself, with only a few limited structures in the inner part of the biosphere itself. The oxygen is a bit too much, but it doesn't hurt us. For humans, it is difficult to breathe there. It can be toxic. They keep the gravity at 8G like we do, it's the same.
And you said that there are 2 levels in the Viera, the terrestrial and the marine. What is in the other level? Water?
Yes, water. An expansive marine ecosystem. I have not been there. I understand you need special passes or something if you're not Andromedan. I don't know why. I understand it's part of the life support system for them, marine agriculture, and for the very sustenance of the terrestrial ecosystem above. One doesn't exist without the other.
And how are they connected? Is there an intermediate level?
It must be somehow artificial, because in itself they are directly above each other, like 2 floors. Down the marine, up the dry land.
And can Andromedans breathe underwater? I think they were amphibious-based or something like that, right?
Genetically they are, but they can't breathe underwater without artificial equipment. I'm sure of this because I've asked and researched it.
And are there marine animals there like fish and cetaceans?
Yes, there are. There's a whole ecosystem. I know that among the things they take from the sea for sustenance are seaweeds, the basis of Andromedan food, just like ours. Breads, doughs, carbohydrates, and sugars, all from seaweed. Entire generations of Andromedans are born, make their lives, and die on that ship.
Short complimentary chat with Yaski. They do create winter there. Simulated, but for wildlife it is. It does not snow, but it gets to be like 8 degrees Celsius or a bit less. But I was told up north, to the bow, they are making it snow. It depends on the species of plants and animals and what they need. When you look up, can you see the roof of the ship? It's kept foggy, but when clear you can. Spoils the natural planet effect. Quite high up, not sure how high, but like 10,000 feet, something like that. 3 kilometers. Okay, Is that dome transparent so you can see the space through it? No. There is a lot of ship above the dome. You cannot see past it. It looks pale blue to white, and the hexagonal shape is slight and black dark gray. Those hexagons light up to form a fake sun effect, and they go turning off and the next one on to fake solar progression across the sky. And the hexagonal shape is full of tubing that showers down to form rain. And from time to time, you can see several openings in the hexagons. Those are the wind generators. Basically big fans, many of them. And they rotate to vector the wind. Cloud generators as well. All coming from mechanisms on and in the ceiling. You mentioned that the Viera is the headquarters of the local or regional council of the Federation here. So it would be like the Earth Council that officially represents the humans.
Yes, that is exactly their role here, and they don't stand out as being helpful. This is our point and problem exactly. The Viera is headquarters of a local federation, but the base of the federation of the entire solar system is on Saturn. Viera is a place of concentration of multiple Federation races. It is like New York, filled with other races friendly to each other and living aboard as representatives. At the moment, for example, the Arcturian race, the Alfretan, and the Antrian, in addition to their ships that are based there on the Viera.
Don't those races have their own ships where they live? Or is it simply because they are more comfortable there?
Because they are more comfortable there. Even TAYGETA, for years, relied on the Viera. Even we use the Viera from time to time to feel a little bit of freedom. For mental sanity, it's hard to live on a ship. You will hear how big this ship is with its 1,734 meters long, but inside it feels very small.